It's a nice morning in Rygate, and John Grady Cole and I got a little job to do. Go get some cows and put them in and put some fly spray on them. Cows and steers and bull and mini herd. So I had somebody asked me about how I had a business plan and what I was doing and all these things with my little career, and I thought about that some, and I remember I was working for Sebin Ranch Company, and my wife, and we had 2 young kids, and we were in Canyon Creek, Montana, and I had been going to some clinics and was really interested in the horses and the horsemanship and being a cowboy and stockman and all those things. And I had a foreman. His name was Clark Atkinson, and he was a sheep. He came to Montana from Idaho and worked around. His dad was a sheep herder, and he came and found his dad. He hadn't seen him since he was a little kid, and he went to work around the Helen area and ended up working cattle at first, and then became a sheep man, and just a great stockman and great grazer, which is a stockman. And so Clark, I was lucky enough to get Clark as a boss, and he was lucky enough to get me because he liked horses and team roped and stuff, but he really hadn't, and the roping, and he hadn't really chased it to that level as a ranch roper and a ranch horseman. And so we were perfect for each other. And I'm just not gonna let that bother me when he wants to buck. So Clark got me started right, and then the horsemanship stuff with Buck and Ray Hunt, and I was really passionate about it. And one day I remember out in the meadow in Sebin, I was doing something, and I stopped my paint horse, Major. She was kind of like this guy. She was a great horse, but a little bit snorty. And I just decided I wanted to be the best stockman possible, and I was going to do whatever it took to be that. And so I really truly believe that started me on a different kind of a journey, and it took me different places. Like, I was plumb happy at Sebin Ranch, and it was a great big ranch, real traditional. I was on the cow side, but I got to work sheep. And anyway, that decision, I really believe, is what created my life as a business and what I did. And so it wasn't a business model, it was a goal of becoming a certain horseman or a stockman. And the business just followed with it because of that, I believe. So what I did is I started riding lots of colts for the public, and then that led into some of those folks wanting some horsemanship help. And then the Horse Whisperer came along, and I got hired to be a part of that. And the funny thing is, and that's where I had quit Sebin before that, and I'd bought a place, and I was in debt way over my head. Tammy and I were, and I was riding lots of colts. I mean, I had to ride 10 colts a month. We were grazing cattle. It was a tough go to make the payments, and I just was killing myself working. Anyway, then Horse Whisperer come along, luckily, and I was doing a few little clinics and stuff. And anyway, Buck helped me get on the Horse Whisperer, and I got chosen for that. And then after that, when it was done, it's funny, I went to a grazing school in Jackson, Mississippi with my vet, who was a grazer as well, Russ Bloom. And we were having dinner there with some folks, lunch with some folks, and a whole bunch of people all sitting at the same table. And these people beside me said, what do you do? And I told them I'd just been on the Horse Whisperer and all that. And as a matter of fact, I was tired of the horse deal and the horse people and all the movie stuff, and I was ready to go home and just ranch. And they said, well, we happen to manage the Midwest Horse Fair. And the Midwest Horse Fair was in Madison, Wisconsin, a huge horse fair. I didn't even know what that was. And so they invited me to come and talk about the Horse Whisperer. And so I did. And while I was there, I ended up, Purina had brought a bunch of colts for Craig Cameron to start. And I was doing colt starting as well as horsemanship stuff. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I was doing it. And so they asked if I wanted to use some of their colts. Purina did. David Nelson, good fella that I've been friends with ever since. And so I did, and we got along great. And Priefert Manufacturing happened to be there. And I think it was Priefert. And anyway, that's where I met up with them and Purina at that first Midwest Horse Fair. And that took it off. So I did my deal. And of course, being an auctioneer and a rodeo announcer, I could I could talk about what I was doing, and that's the biggest skill you need to be somebody that presents to the public. Is you need, I'm gonna see if I can get this gate open here without getting bucked off. So, and this is Priefert gate, and that's so anyway, I got along good. David Nelson asked me if I would be interested in doing some more of this kind of stuff, and Priefert was there and asked, and they liked what I did to their round pens. And so, long story short, here I am. But there's been a lot of stuff in between. And as we rode up here, you can see these Priefert panels. Well, when I started doing a lot of work with Priefert, that was in the days when a lot of places would have clinicians come in and do a colt starting demonstration. And 2-hour demonstration or whatever they'd set up at the store or at the fairgrounds, and then Purina was doing the same thing with their equine educational seminars, EES meetings. And so that's what happened. So I was a colt starter. I'd come in, do a 2-hour demonstration, and the store would pay for it, or Priefert or Purina would pay for it, and that's how so what I did is I grew my business, getting known by people paying me to come. So Priefert and Purina paid me to come and do a demonstration. And the big thing that I did that was different, like some other folks, a friend of mine, I won't mention any names, but he got paid $1,500. He wouldn't do one for less than $1,500 for a demonstration. Well, I'd been working for ranch cowboy wages, and that seemed kind of crazy to me. And so what I did is I say, I'm going to do it for $500. And I'm going to go get paid to do what I love. $500 a day for 2 hours is great, plus all my expenses. And so then I built my name up. Nobody knew me. And by doing these demonstrations, and then Western Horseman got interested, and I did lots of articles with Western Horseman. And so I never advertised one time, ever. Maybe I put an ad in the Adit, which was a little local magazine in Helena, to advertise a clinic sometimes. And I think one year we put a schedule, I'm not sure if that's right or not, in Western Horseman, but I'm not sure about that. I don't think I did, but I think I was going to. So anyway, I didn't spend any money on advertising. Priefert, Purina, they built my business and get my name out there, and then Western Horseman. And the funny story is, horse and rider Jennifer Dennison actually called and wanted to do an article with me. And I said, I'd like to, but I'm a horse and rider doesn't really fit me as a ranch guy. It's more of a show horse or whatever. So I'm going to stick with Western Horseman. And Jennifer ended up working for Western Horseman and said that was a very good decision. And they did a book with me and all that, Western Horseman did. So anyway, that's how the business started. But what I want to talk about here is this is how long. So Priefert, they never paid me to endorse their products. The only thing they did is paid me when I went and did a job. And one time, David Phillibrown, the first guy I started working with, we had a big operation in Miles City, Montana, and we were going to load a lot of cattle, and he wanted to use they had their new Revolution system out, and he sent me one of them. It's the only thing they ever given me. But I bought these panels right here, and these panels right here are probably over 30 years old, I would think. I would check. This hook right here was the first one, and with these panels today, the panels are more like, they hook more like, I don't even have one here. Yeah, the today's panels are this kind of a setup where it hooks right here, comes around, and so with this panel, you go over on the top, over on the bottom when you're hooking them up. With the old style that I have, you go over on the top, under on the bottom, and that keeps them from being able to lift up if an animal gets his head under. But anyway, those are 30 years old. And I was doing a demonstration, and there was a bunch of panels somewhere close to Montana, and I bought them. I bought like 60 or 70 of them. And I've had those panels from South Dakota to Helena to Rygate to, I think I even took some of them to Texas. Back to Texas and then back here, and they've been everywhere, and they're just the greatest thing ever. But I had to buy them. They gave me a good price on them, but I had to buy them, and I'm glad at that. But Priefert's been just such a wonderful thing, and it's, Priefert, the Priefert family, you got to have some integrity to work there, and you got to have some integrity to be promoting their name. And so I tried to do that, and I just can't. But I just set these pens up the other day. I had a big pen out there and I wanted to clean it, so it was just one big pen. So I set up these 3 little pens to put horses or cattle or whatever in, and right by my house here. So, but my kids, they've set up and taken down more panels than any kid in the country, I think. And they said I didn't have Lincoln logs when I was a kid, and so I just use that as my Lincoln logs. And I'm probably right. I love setting up corrals and designing corrals and making them where they work for horses and cattle and all those things. And I've started so many colts in a Priefert round pen, and they're great products. I love their sweep system that they used to call it the Revolution, and I can't remember what degree it is, but it's the best deal because the tub is set up right and works great. And I used to have a chute, and I had lots of Priefert chutes, squeeze chutes, but the one I liked best was the foot feed. You could squeeze it with your foot. You stand on it and would squeeze, and that was a great I had a couple of those. But when we got the bucking bulls, I had to sell my Priefert chute and get a hydraulic chute because it was just too much for my vet and too dangerous. So anyway, Priefert, I just think they're a great company and great people. The great thing about Priefert and having them create my business without even knowing it, and Purina as well, it's the people. Like I said, David Philibrown's the one I started with, and he was great, and he was really a great, he was a hard worker and pusher, and he loved the horse stuff and knew how effective those were at that time. And then Cliff Neal, he was a big fella from Texas. Him and his brother, I'll have to think of his brother's name. I haven't thought of that for a long time. Cliff was a great big guy, and his brother was a little bitty guy, and they were as different as apple pie and pecan pie. Kind of same, but quite a bit different. And then there was this Jim guy from Nebraska that was a character. He didn't actually work for him. He contracted with him, and him and Philibrown were always fighting and arguing. He passed away. And Larry Neal was Cliff's brother. And then Ron Gates. Ron Gates has been a friend, and met him first in California, worked with him, and then he's been just such a special friend of us. And then Steve Campbell, he and Ron were good buddies, and we'd do Red Bluff together, and NFR and colt starting stuff everywhere. And then Ron became a great big part of the art of the cowgirl. And Ron was Ron wasn't a cowboy, but he was a people person. And he wasn't even that good of a salesman, but everybody loved him so much, he did great. I think he was a great salesman because of that. Anyway, and so then Ron, and then, oh geez, there's been so many. There was a Karate Kid, and I'm not thinking of their names right now, but the whole thing about Priefert and Purina is the people that work for him. And Ron Gates and Steve Campbell, we would go to the NFR and do colt starting demonstrations for 10 days. And they would take our kids out to dinner, so Tammy and they would take our kids for the night, so Tammy and I could go out to dinner and have a nice night, sometimes wherever we were. So they were so special and such good guys that that's what Priefert's all about. The panels, the equipment, the chutes, everything is great stuff. But where it is their people. And they've been a big part of our life. And those people, a lot of those guys back in the day when the colt starting deal was so big and so great, those guys made Tammy and I's deal. And then with Ron, when the Art of the Cowgirl came along and Tammy pitched her idea to Ron, he was all in. And I don't know of anybody else in this world that helped Tammy. Maybe Nancy Martini with the saddle making. She was all in, and Ron Gates was all in, and there's lots of others too. But those two actually helped make the Art of the Cowgirl. And Ron Gates worked his butt off for my wife. She'd have him put panels up and take them down, and I'd see him sweating and panting, and then he had to work with me. And so I'm going to say this, Ron Gates, on the rest of the Priefert guys, I'll focus on Ron right now just because he's on my mind. They are the best. And their panels are the best, and I bet you Bill Priefert and all the boys will agree with this. They have great equipment, but they have an even better people in their family as a tradition of good people, but they hire good people, and they've had some of the best. And I think that's what, as I ride up and I'm going to put my dogs in my Priefert dog kennels, which I've had for a long time, and they're great. I want to tip my hat to Priefert and thank them for helping take me on my journey with the horsemanship, because when you go to putting public demonstrations and start talking, and that's when you really start learning. And that's why I think my journey was taken to doing public demonstrations and clinics, was simply because that was going to further my horsemanship farther along. And Priefert was a big part of that. Purina was a big part of it. My wife was a big part of it. And people that wanted to come and learn and see were a big part of it. But it's been such a great journey, and I'm just getting started. I feel like I don't even know anything. So I want to learn lots more. And that's where we're at.